take your shit, my brother. I take your shit, my brother. I take your shit, my brother. You show better.
He pump faking.
I take your bag. Police know what's up. Don't do all that. I take your bag. I take your.
No, he say he'll take that boy shit.
Take your bag.
Rouge police confirmed that they have a suspect in custody in connection to the deadly shooting at the Amazon facility taking place Monday night. Police say the suspect is 18-year-old Carl G. Nash. We're told he turned himself in earlier this morning. BRPD telling us that there was an argument between the victim and the suspect just before shots were fired. We've learned the victim in this incident is 21-year-old Dalen Anthony. He died at the scene, and right now we know Nash is facing charges of second-degree murder and illegal use of a weapon. Meanwhile, Amazon says it's cooperating with BRPD in this investigation.
A man bursts through a glass door. He's running. He's not looking back. He just wants to get away. But the person behind him doesn't stop. He follows him through that same door, raises his weapon, and fires. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3, 4. All 4 bullets aimed at a man who was already running for his life. This didn't happen in a dark alley. It didn't happen on a street corner at midnight. It happened inside one of the biggest companies on the planet. And every single second of it was caught on camera by a bystander who couldn't believe what they were seeing. The victim was only 21 years old. He had a college degree within reach. He had music. He had a future. And the shooter? He was someone the victim already knew. So what really happened that night, and why? Stay with us, because this story gets darker before it gets clearer. Before we get into what happened that night, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from? And have you ever seen violence hit close to home in your city? Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to Homicide Exposed. We cover the stories that matter. Before we talk about what happened that night, you need to know who Dalen Anthony was, because he wasn't just a name in a police report. He was a real person, a son, a student, an artist, a young man who was building something, and he was so close to finishing it. Dalen was 21 years old and a senior at Grambling State University in Louisiana. He was studying mechanical engineering, one of the hardest degrees you can pursue. That tells you something about him right away. This wasn't someone drifting through life. And this was someone with a plan, someone who showed up, did the work, and kept pushing forward even when it wasn't easy. But Dalen had another side to him, a creative side that he refused to keep quiet. Outside of his engineering textbooks and late-night study sessions, Dalen was a rapper. He went by the name BG Native, and he was part of a music group called Soul INX. Music wasn't just a hobby for him, it was a passion. It was how he expressed himself, how he connected with people, and how he saw his future unfolding beyond graduation. He was the kind of young man who refused to be just one thing. He wanted it all, the degree, the career, and the music. To help cover his expenses while in school, Dalen took a job at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, the same building that sits on the site of the old Cortana Mall. He started working there in December 2024, but at some point before April 28, 2025, he left that job. He was no longer an Amazon employee. That detail matters, and we'll come back to it. What we know for certain is that Dalen Anthony was the kind of son that a mother brags about. His mother, Keoshia Jackson, has spoken publicly about her son since his death. The pain in her words is impossible to miss. She didn't just lose a child. She lost a child who was almost there, almost graduated, almost done, almost ready to step into everything he had worked so hard for. She created a GoFundMe to help cover the costs that come after a tragedy like this. Costs no parent should ever have to think about. Dalen Anthony was 21 years old with a college degree almost in his hands, music in his heart, and a whole life ahead of him. And then on one Monday night in April, everything stopped. It was a Monday night. Late, the kind of late where most people are already home, already settled, already done with their day. But Dalen Anthony wasn't home that night. He was at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Florida Boulevard, the same place he used to work, the same building he had walked in and out of countless times before. Except this time, he no longer worked there. He had left that job weeks earlier. So why was he there? That's a question police never answered. To this day, no official explanation has been given for why Dalen showed up at that facility on the night of April 28, 2025. Was he there to meet someone? Was he picking something up? Did someone ask him to come? Nobody is saying. And that silence, that unanswered question, is one of the most haunting parts of this entire story. What we do know is this. At some point that night, Dalen came face to face with Carl Gene Nash, an 18-year-old who was still a current Amazon employee. The two men knew each other. They had worked together at that same facility. Outside the main entrance of the building, something went wrong between them. Words were exchanged. Tensions rose. What started as an argument quickly turned into something far more dangerous. We don't know exactly what was said. We don't know who threw the first word or made the first move. But we know how it ended. Dalen made a decision in that moment. He turned and ran. He pushed open a glass door and rushed inside the building, moving fast, trying to put distance between himself and Nash. Maybe he thought getting inside would stop things from escalating. Maybe he thought Nash wouldn't follow him. He was wrong. Nash came through that same door right behind him, and within seconds of stepping inside, he raised his weapon and opened fire. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3, 4 bullets, all fired at a man who had his back turned, a man who was running away. Dalen Anthony collapsed inside that building. He never made it out. A bystander inside the facility had their phone out and captured the moment on video. The footage shows the two men just outside the entrance before Dalen pushes through the glass door. When it shows Nash following him in, it shows the shots being fired. It is as clear as it is devastating. The moment those shots rang out, panic spread through the building. Amazon employees were evacuated from the facility immediately. People who had just been going about their shifts suddenly found themselves rushing out into the night, not fully understanding what had just happened inside. Dalen Anthony was 21 years old. He ran as fast as he could. It wasn't fast enough. So who is the person who pulled that trigger? His name is Carl Gene Nash. At the time of the shooting, he was just 18 years old. Let that sink in for a second. 18. Still a teenager. Still at an age where most people are thinking about graduation parties, first cars, and what comes next in life. But on the night of April 28, 2025, Carl Gene Nash made a choice that will define the rest of his life. Nash was a current employee at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Florida Boulevard. That means he had a job. He was showing up. He was earning. On the surface, there was nothing that would make you point at this young man and say, that person is going to shoot someone. But here's what makes this case even more complicated. Nash and Dalen Anthony knew each other. They weren't strangers. They had worked side by side at that same Amazon facility. They were ex-co-workers, two young men from the same city, working the same job, moving through the same building every shift. So what went so wrong between them? The honest answer is, we don't have the full picture. Police have not publicly revealed what the argument was specifically about. And we know there was a confrontation outside the main entrance that night. We know it escalated fast. But the exact words, the exact trigger, the exact reason this situation turned deadly, that has not been fully disclosed. What we do know is that Nash didn't act entirely alone. Enter Mary Ryle Ross, a 19-year-old who was later arrested in connection with the case. According to investigators, Ross played a critical role in what happened that night. She is accused of providing the weapon that Nash used to shoot Dalen Anthony. And after the shooting, she allegedly helped Nash flee the scene, actively assisting him in getting away while Dalen lay dying inside that building. That means this wasn't just a spontaneous moment of rage. Someone brought a gun to that location. Someone handed it over. And when it was all over, someone helped the shooter disappear into the night. 2 people made sure Dalen Anthony didn't make it home that night, and both of them were people connected to that same workplace. When the shots stopped and the building was evacuated, Baton Rouge police moved in fast. This was not a case where investigators were starting from zero. They didn't have to search for clues in the dark or wait weeks for leads to come in. From the very beginning, they had something powerful working in their favor. They had the video. The bystander footage captured inside the Amazon fulfillment center that night was clear. It showed the argument. It showed Dalen pushing through the glass door. It showed Nash following him inside. It showed the moment Nash raised his weapon and fired 4 shots at a man who was running away from him. Where there was no confusion about what happened. There was no room for doubt. That video became the backbone of the entire investigation. From there, police worked quickly to identify the shooter. Nash was a current Amazon employee. His name, his face, and his work history were all on record at that facility. It didn't take long for investigators to connect the dots between the man on that video and the 18-year-old who had clocked in for shifts at that same building. 2 days after the shooting, on April 30th, 2025, Carl Geen Nash was arrested. He was taken into custody and booked into the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, facing 2 serious charges: second-degree murder and illegal use of a weapon. Second-degree murder in Louisiana is not a light charge. It carries the possibility of a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Nash was 18 years old when he was booked. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. But the arrest didn't stop with Nash. As investigators dug deeper into the events of that night, a second name kept coming up: Emery Rael Ross, 19 years old. Ross was not inside that building when the shots were fired, but according to police, her role in this case was significant. She is accused of being the person who supplied the weapon that Nash used to kill Dalen Anthony. And after the shooting, instead of calling for help or stepping away, she allegedly helped Nash escape the scene. Ross was arrested separately and charged in connection with the case, accused of actively helping a killer walk free while a 21-year-old lay dying on the floor of an Amazon warehouse. 2 arrests, 2 young people now facing serious consequences, and 1 family left with nothing but questions and grief. This case is still developing, and there is so much more to unpack. But before we continue, what do you think about what you've heard so far? Do you think justice will truly be served here? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if someone sent you this video, make sure you subscribe to Homicide Exposed. We're just getting started. When a tragedy like this happens, it's easy to focus only on the people involved. But sometimes a single event forces an entire community, and even an entire country, to stop and ask bigger questions. This was one of those events. The first question a lot of people started asking was simple: how did a gun get inside an Amazon fulfillment center? Amazon has workplace policies that are supposed to prevent exactly this kind of thing. Employees are not supposed to bring weapons onto company property. There are rules. There are procedures. But on the night of April 28th, 2025, a gun made it inside that building, and a 21-year-old lost his life because of it. That has led to serious conversations about whether Amazon security measures are actually strong enough to protect the people who work there every single day. Then there's the broader issue of youth violence in Baton Rouge. And this city has struggled with gun violence for years. Young people, teenagers and young adults, have been both the victims and the perpetrators in case after case. Carl Geen Nash was 18, Emery Rael Ross was 19, Dalen Anthony was 21. 3 young people, 1 night, 1 decision that cannot be undone. It is a pattern that the Baton Rouge community knows all too well, and one that continues to demand attention. The location itself also carries weight. The Amazon Fulfillment Center sits on the site of the old Cortana Mall, a place that older Baton Rouge residents remember as a community landmark. The fact that this tragedy happened there adds another layer of pain for people who grew up in that area. And then there is Keoshia Jackson, Dalen's mother. She has carried her grief publicly and with tremendous strength. Her GoFundMe page, as created to help cover the costs of her son's death, became a place where strangers from across the country came together to offer support. People who never met Dalen Anthony showed up for his family because his story moved them. The music community also felt the loss deeply. Fellow artists and fans of BG Native and Soul INX mourned online, sharing his music and remembering the young man behind the rapper name, someone who was just getting started. Dalen Anthony deserved to finish what he started. We started this story with a man running through a glass door. 4 shots, a young life ended, a mother destroyed, a future gone in seconds. Dalen Anthony was not a perfect person. None of us are. But he was a person who was trying. He was pushing through a tough degree at Grambling State University. He was working to pay his bills. Like he was making music and building something real. He was 21 years old with everything still ahead of him. And then one Monday night, for reasons we still don't fully understand, he ended up at a building he no longer worked at, and he never came home. That unanswered question still hangs in the air. Why was he really there that night? Maybe we'll find out when this case goes to trial. Maybe we never will. But what we do know is that his mother, Keoshia Jackson, deserves answers. She deserves justice, and she deserves to know that her son's story was heard. Carl Jean Nash and Amiri Rael Ross are both in custody. The legal process is now in motion. But for a grieving mother, an arrest is not the same as closure. Justice is just the beginning. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and share this video. It helps more people hear Dalen's story. Subscribe to Homicide Exposed for more true crime coverage that doesn't look away. And drop a comment below. What do you think justice looks like for Dalen Anthony's family?